Well, Henshaw here again, Constitutional Coop headquarters, and what a great weekend we've already had, and it isn't even over yet. For those of you who haven't heard, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals just struck down the Biden mandatory COVID vaccination BS. And they did it in a case called BST versus OSHA, and they did it in no uncertain terms. And this is great news for all of us across the country, particularly in view of what was said in this opinion about why they did it. Here are a couple of quick quotes. In addition to the many reasons identified in the majority opinion, I underscore one reason why these challenges to OSHA's unprecedented mandate are virtually certain to succeed, meaning that the circuit court judge, the second highest court in the land, sees that the U.S. Supreme Court not only will have no choice but to affirm what they did, but very likely with at least 5, 6, and maybe 7 justices on our side. That's a major, not only a major victory, but listen to the reason he cited here. Whether Congress could enact a sweeping mandate under its interstate commerce clause powers would pose a hard question. Whether OSHA can do so does not. And if these courts are now ready to revisit the Commerce Clause jurisprudence of Congress, I'm going to be the first in line. Now, in this opinion, he cited a case that's not irrelevant, but it's not important. It's the Sibelius case on this subject. But what he really should have put in, and might well have, had he thought about it more, is a case called United States v. Lopez, 514 U.S. 549. Where the court reviewed, and for the first time, and this is 1994 when this case came down, I believe, first time in 6 decades, issued an opinion limiting Congress's Commerce Clause powers. And you read this opinion, it's a beauty, and especially the opinions by Justices O'Connor and Thomas, who is still on the court today, by the way, Clarence Thomas. So we'll see how this plays out. If the courts are finally ready to go there, and those of you that have viewed my recent videos, especially talking about the last term of the U.S. Supreme Court, I got a strong feeling from what I understood there that that's precisely where they wanted to go. And this is even more evidence, particularly if the Fifth Circuit got a phone call behind the scenes telling them to issue an opinion doing what they did. I mean, this is so good you can't stand it because although on the surface it doesn't look like it, this affects every case across the board where the government wants to exercise power over you. Traffic court, ain't. IRS, ain't. Mortgage payment, ain't. Student loans, see you later, ain't. All of them. It's all Commerce Clause powers of Congress. If we have an open window into that question, we have a chance to not only win big, but to make changes in the way the system operates that will affect us, in my case, for whatever the remainder of my life turns out to be. I maybe have 8 or 10 good years here, but beside the point, it does it for our children and our posterity. It puts us on the track to get back to our federated Republican form of government of defined and limited powers. Where the hell has that been for the last 160 years, John Roberts et al.? If you've done your damn job during all this time, none of this happens. Now, to be sure, there are more guilty parties, but with an independent judicial branch of government, we have a reasonable expectation that none of this would ever have occurred. Video for another day. If they're ready to do it now, better late than never. And we can get in there. The changes are going to be astounding. If that's where they're headed to go, and I can give them a fact, I'm going to be doing a brief, by the way. If this case does get to the U.S. Supreme Court, they're going to get an amicus curiae brief from me, friend of the court, and saying, fine, go ahead and review the issues that were raised in this case, but here's a whole passel of lot better issues emanating from all 6 articles of the Constitution. Pick any one of them you want. We need answers, and we need them now. We have to start limiting government before it's too late. And I, for one, still think there is a real chance to do that in the only nation ever ordained and established in history in which such a peaceful change is possible. It's there, people. We have those rights. If you understand the perspective, the last thing government wants you to get, especially the New York banksters behind them, and you get that in your mind, that think about it. I mean, we ordained and established this Constitution and all government. The relationship between us and government is principal and agent. We have the power. We tell them what to do, not the other way around. That's the difference with the Republican form of government and their democracy. And notice they have exactly the same democracy in Pyongyang, North Korea. And I'm sure Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and all are really envious because at the last election over there, the voter turnout was 99%. Of course, what they don't tell you in Pyongyang is that not voting is an act of treason. Ain't probably you get summarily executed, no need for a trial, no need even for a directed verdict of guilt. Yeah, take you out there in the field and shoot you dead. I mean, that's lack of respect for human life. And that's a common thread with Asian nations and African nations. And that was not true here when we started out. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, they recognized Creator endowed inalienable rights. Oh, goodness, I got to put in a plug for myself here. For more information about all of this, please send me an email, youwinincourt@gmail.com, and I'll get you a courtesy copy of my now updated indemnification and hold harmless document, and a copy of a companion document I'm preparing that you can send to the CEO of your company and present to whoever the head of it is locally and say, this is the situation, people. Hold your horses here. We're invoking our rights secured by the Constitution to get a judicial determination as to whether Congress can order any of this crap or not. And it's looking a whole lot like that's not going to be true. We're going to win this one. So you tell them in no uncertain terms, I'm going to work, I'm going to get paid for it. Or if you're going to put me on a leave of absence, it's going to be fully paid while the litigation is ongoing. I have rights here, you have obligations. And to the employer, quote unquote, by the way, and it's not even an employer-employee relationship, another issue that's likely to get reviewed here if all goes well, maybe not in the instant case, but the questions I ask put it directly at issue, exactly where it needs to be. So if that's the case, I mean, you tell them in no uncertain terms that the corporation, no matter how big it is, Bill Gates and Elon Musk, you're the agents of our agents in government. And all you have is the powers that our agents have, and they don't have anything remotely resembling the power to do what they're attempting to do here with this COVID BS. Even better, and a video for another day. And I'm going to tell corporations in no uncertain terms, if we have to file an action, and speaking for myself personally, then we're going to do everything in the world to challenge the vitality of your ongoing corporate existence. And by golly, we can beat them on this one. That's the video again for another day. But that's how serious this is. And all of this is seemingly now in play for the first time in memory that we can actually do this and make differences. It's exciting. And even though I don't have my own family per se, it's exciting for me because I have people that I help out and have known for many years and have cared for. And it's kind of somewhat like a family. And I'll make it better for them also. So that's why my work is what it is. That's why I went all in 15 years ago. I do this basically 24/7. And it's just exciting, which is not something you are going to think about when you think about going into their courts, which isn't what we will be doing. But that said, send me an email for more information, youwinincourt@gmail.com, and I'll get you a complimentary updated version of my Indemnified document, meaning that we're going to say, okay, you signed on the dotted line here. If you're going to give us the jab, then you accept any and all negative consequences that occur because the federal government conveniently has given Big Pharma blanket immunity from any lawsuits in state courts. And that's one of the clearest indications that we don't have states, people. And that's exactly what under reading between the lines in this recent case that I'm talking about, BST, you can read that in there. If you have the background and experience that I do, the question is, do we have states and do we have a constitution? And that's the one we want decided on the record. It's so exciting, I can't tell you. And this opportunity has come up just somewhat out of the blue, and in a case you might not expect it to do with all these LLC people and this, that, and the other. They had a few quote unquote real plaintiffs in there, and they didn't ask any of the questions that I will be asking, even though they're all relevant. That's the important part. So we tell your CEO of your employer, whoever the hell it is, to stand down. Okay, to be sure, this opinion in the Fifth Circuit might not be binding case law where you are, but without any other contrary opinions from other circuit courts, and the fact that it is likely to be reviewed by the Supreme Court, they should not only want to stand down, they have a duty to do so. And we'll see what develops. And even if, by the way, some other circuit court of appeals should come to a different conclusion in an earlier era, that would have been the Ninth Circuit out here in California. That really means good news for us, because now the Supreme Court's going to have a full hearing. They can't summarily dismiss this one in the back room, which I don't think will happen here anyway. But it's going to take a little time. It could even go over to the next term, although the magnitude of the issues I present, we might get it on the docket and then just push some other cases off to the next term that can wait a little longer. So we'll see what happens procedurally there. But it's exciting, and I rarely get, I know better after 5 decades to get as excited as I am here. And yet what I've seen in the last 72 hours is stunning. We have a real chance not only to get out from under here, but the decision will apply across the board to all government agencies. Damn, it's about time. So that's it. Send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. I'll get the information out, complimentary indemnified document, and complimentary letter to your CEO of your employer telling them to stand down in no uncertain terms. And they're going to do it because this is the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals thing. And this is not some podunk trial court in Minnesota or South Dakota or something like that. The second highest court in the land, saying it clearly and unambiguously in no uncertain terms. So that's the leverage we have here. So that's it. Remember to subscribe, like the videos, tell your friends, get the word out. The sooner we all start working together and cut this divide and conquer BS they've been doing for way too long, Asians, Americans, Africans, across the board, the sooner we get these bastards off our back. And now we may have a glorious opportunity to do it. Thank you.